Hi girls, Mr. Gilmore here again. We're back at you with our second video on coordinates. It is the 31st of the 3rd, and today what we're going to be working on are what we call the four quadrants. Okay, so the description there in the book is on page 298. And so far, we've just been looking at points along the grid. So you'll notice that this is positive and a positive. But let's actually just think in terms of the number line. So we can see that the x-axis here, that's a number line, isn't it? Going from 0 to 12. But the number line doesn't end at 0, does it? In fact, you can even see it. It's continuing on here. It continues on to the negatives. And so too does the y-axis. So far, we've only looked at positive values for coordinates, okay? So far, we started off by just looking at positive values. Now we're going to look at what we call negative values. So we can see, okay, we still have the x-axis, right? We still have the x-axis. We still have the y-axis. And we still have the origin, right? But now we've got four different sections, right? And we call each of these sections quadrants. And any of you who know your kind of etymology and kind of how words are structured, quad means four. So quadrants, the four parts. Okay? So what we do is we even name these quadrants. So the one that we've been looking at so far, the entirely positive section, we call that the first quadrant. And then we go anti-clockwise around our quadrants, okay? So we're going anti-clockwise, so the opposite direction of a clock. So we move, okay, first quadrant is all positives. So every value, both the x and y value in the first quadrant will be positive. Then we go anti-clockwise to the second quadrant. And do you think that the values here are going to be positive or negative? Well, let's just look. Okay, so imagine I just picked a random point. Let's say this point here. Okay? Now we still read our x-axis first and then our y-axis. So we go across and then up or down. So left or right and then up or down. So, okay, it's -1 along the x-axis and 2 along the y-axis. So it's -1 and 2. So in the second quadrant, our x value is negative. Our y value is positive. Okay, let's move on to our next quadrant, the third quadrant, this section here, okay? Now, do you think that the values here will be positive or negative or a mix? If you said entirely negative, you'd be correct. So you can see, if I just pick again, another random point here, let's say this point here, you'll see, okay, that's -2 as our first value, and that's -4 as our second value. So both values are negative. And then again, anti-clockwise until we get to the fourth quadrant. And you should be starting to see what will be positive and what will be negative in this. So x value is positive, y value is negative. So we've got our first, second, third, and fourth quadrants. The first quadrant is all positive numbers. The second quadrant has a negative x value, a positive y value. The third quadrant has two negative values, and the fourth quadrant has a positive x value and a negative y value. Okay, so this is our coordinate plane. Let's have a look at one or two points, and we'll try to find the values for each of these points. Okay, so we have got A, B, C, D, E, and F. And let's just work through this and have a look at each one. Okay, so A, let's begin with A. It's got 3 positive, 4 positive. So A is going to be 3, 4. And we know that that's correct because we've got a positive X value and a positive Y value. We are in the first quadrant here. Now B is not in the first, second, or third quadrant. It's in the fourth quadrant. And we'll still see that the X value is 3, right? And the Y value, I'm going to stop doing it in red. I'm just going to do it in black just so it's faster. Y value is -1. Again, we do X value first, Y value second. Let's look at C here. Again, X value first, Y value second. So X value first, -2, Y value second, 2. Okay, so it is in the second quadrant, so negative then positive. D value here, okay, again we're going to go X value first, Y value second, so across first, then up or down second, so -3, -2, E here. Oh, this one's actually on one of our axes, so do we remember what we know when something is on an axis? This is on the y-axis, so we should remember the X value will be 0, and the Y value, that's -3. And let's just finish off with F. Again, we're back in that first quadrant. We've got a 5 here, a 2 here. X value first, Y value second. Fantastic. Okay, so we can name values. We can name coordinates given it on a graph. Let's now do similar to what we did yesterday. Let's look at when we're given the location of a graph and we now need to find it on the coordinates, on the coordinate plane, okay? So A here is 1, 2. So it's 1 along the x-axis, 2 along the y-axis, okay? So here we go, we've got A here. Now B, that's 2, 3. So is that going to be here or here? Just take a few seconds for yourself. Try to figure it out. Okay. You should have gotten here because X value first, Y value second. So that point is B. C here, okay, we're now starting to get a negative X value, right? So we've got a negative X value here, positive Y value. So C here, I'm just going to write in Y here and X here just to remind ourselves of this. D, okay, positive X value, negative Y value. So should be in the fourth quadrant. 1, 2. Okay, 2, and then down 1. Perfect. So that'll be D for ourselves. Next one, E, -2, -3. So 2 into the negatives, 3 down. So there we go. E. F, okay, this one has a negative Y value, so it's going to stay on the x-axis. So negative Y stays on the x-axis. Negative X stays on the y-axis. So F, -3 will move to -3, and we're not doing anything with the Y value, so we're just going to jot it in here. And then G, 0, -2. So 0 along the x-axis, -2 on the y-axis. So G should be right here. Fantastic. Okay, so there's one final thing that the questions I'll be giving you girls will require, and that is when they go complete the square. Okay, So they give us 3 points on a plane, and you just need to figure out where the square would be. So what I generally find is the easiest way of doing this is just graph it out on your own table or even just in your book, and just write in what you think a square should look like. So we've got 2 sides here, so you can kind of go, okay, let's finish off that square. Okay, so that final point right here. I just wanted to do an example of this because you will be getting a few questions quite like that. Okay, so what have we learned today? Well, we've learned what the first, second, third, and fourth quadrant is. We know that in the first quadrant, all values are positive. In the second quadrant, the x value is positive, the x value is negative, the y value is positive. In the third quadrant, both values are negative. In the fourth quadrant, the x value is positive, the y value is negative. I won't lie to you girls, I don't remember that straight off the top of my head. I generally kind of visualize the coordinate plane for myself, and then I know that the first quadrant is the all positives, and then from that you just go anti-clockwise, okay? So I would say pause this video. If you haven't taken this down, take this down into your notes, okay? And now I'll give you girls some homework to do. So I'm going to zoom in here just so that we're given plenty of space for me to write. Can we do from page 298 through 300? Let's do questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 11, and 14. And as always, girls, please correct this work for yourselves. Some of it won't have corrections in the back of the book. I know which ones won't. So I obviously will give you feedback on those ones. Obviously, they can't just have an entire filled out graph for you if it's saying, oh, fill out this graph and then name the points, or sorry, label the points on the graph. I would recommend, if you are going to try to do any of these, don't spend too much time doing beautiful graphs. It's okay for your graph to not look flawless, so long as it clearly indicates where each point is. Okay? Thank you very much, girls. I look forward to going through your work. Bye-bye.